Back to our breaking news. The Defence Secretary Grant Shapps has appeared to confirm that the high-speed rail line from Birmingham to Manchester will be scrapped in the Prime Minister's conference speech today. The Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, joins us now. Andy, we've had lots of opportunity for, not just a few days, but a few weeks to hear about the way this decision has been handled, your anger on behalf of of Greater Manchester and the North more widely. You did say in a letter a few days ago that you would be open to a discussion with the Prime Minister about prioritising the northern section of the line. So today in his speech, what does Rishi Sunak have to say about HS2 and his wider investment plans, which would mean that you would feel there was something positive to talk about?
So, morning, Ed. To answer your question, as a minimum, a new line across the north of England from Liverpool, using what would have been the HS2 infrastructure through Manchester Airport, Manchester Underground Station there at Piccadilly, Bradford, Leeds. That new line is what the north of England desperately needs above anything else. Because anyone knows, and you know this, given your former constituency, if you try to travel across the Pennines by train, you can set yourself for a lot of delay and disruption because that's people's daily reality here. I would say that new line is the biggest transport priority for the country. And I've always said the north of England shouldn't have to choose between a north-south line and an east-west line. We need both. London hasn't been forced to choose between the Elizabeth line and HS2, and nor should we. And it's just so frustrating at the end of this week that we see politicians again thinking they can treat people here in this part of the world differently from the way they treat people elsewhere. It's just not right. It's the way this country's always been, but it really, really needs to be challenged.
But just to be clear, because I hear you say you'd like both, but if the Prime Minister says we can only have one because money is short, you're saying that actually the first priority for jobs and investment to make the northern economies prosper better would be, first of all, to do the east-west line through Manchester to Leeds, because that's really where the biggest economic benefits come from.
So we wrote to him a week ago saying that, myself and the leader of Manchester City Council, Bev Craig, we said, let's have a conversation about that type of rephasing so that we build the northern section first. And we haven't had a reply. What I would say to him, if you're going to do that, still protect the line south from Birmingham. I don't believe what their kind of briefing is actually going to work. The idea that you can get an HS2 train to Birmingham and then switch to an already congested West Coast main line, and that somehow is going to work, I don't think it will. But also, what statement does that send? You kind of you fly up the southern half of the country and then you trundle up the northern half of the country. Again, it's what I'm saying. They're treating us here as second-class citizens. They've always done it. They're still doing it. And bear in mind, this new line across the north, what's called Northern Powerhouse Rail, has not been in one, it's not been in two, it's been in three Conservative manifestos. So I don't know, Ed. They may well say that's what they're doing today. I don't know. They've left us in the dark all week. And this is another point, as you know. This type of infrastructure goes beyond the life of any one government. It goes beyond any one political party because it affects constituencies from both sides. It should be done by consensus. They've been holed up in hotel rooms in Manchester this week and they've never spoken to us on a decision of this importance for the country in the north of England. It really is no way to do these things, and it's not fair to people here.
I understand what you're saying about the process, and you're going to be watching what he says later, clearly. But the point you're making, I agree with this.
Yep.
When you and I were both in the Cabinet back in 2009-10,
yep,
and the Labour government then decided to start HS2 from London, actually, the right decision then would have been to prioritise the east-west northern link first, because that was always where the bigger benefits came from in terms of jobs and growth.
I think I remember saying it, and I think I remember you saying it as well. I said build in the north first. I've always said that. And if they had done that, do we honestly think the London leg would have been being cancelled today? No, of course not. Everybody knows that. So This is a situation that the Conservative Party really needs to reflect on. You know, we had George Osborne come a decade ago, Ed, the Northern powerhouse. He made a whole heap of promises to us. HS2, HS3, new platforms at Piccadilly. We've not had any of it. Boris Johnson stood in front of Stephenson's rocket, said the same. None of it's been delivered. You know, Rishi Sunak's going to raise issues about trust in politics today. What does he think all of that does to trust in politics by people in the north of England when they've had all of this put to them and then repeatedly broken? And he's going to be standing in front of a sign in Manchester today, long-term decisions for a brighter future. I'm sorry, I've been listening to this conference this week. To me, all I'm hearing are short-term, desperate decisions from a dying government.
One question on Suella Braverman's speech yesterday. It's been described as a barnstormer, as a wig lifter. A couple of her comments, Labour turbocharged their impact of international rules by passing the misnamed Human Rights Act. I'm surprised they didn't call it the Criminal Rights Act. The choice between Conservative Labour is the choice between strong borders and no borders. And Sir Keir Starmer would take the country into a situation that is properly woke. We're getting a number of comments this morning from a lot of people who agree with her. Do you think that was a populist speech? How has it gone down, do you think, in Manchester with the people you represent?
Well, I don't think it will have gone down well because it was a divisive speech. It's trying to whip up feeling, and we've never really seen this type of rhetoric from a British Home Secretary. Manchester is a city that has always been based on unity and solidarity between people, and I think what we're seeing is a Home Secretary deliberately setting out to try and divide people one from another. I've never seen a British Home Secretary do this in quite this way. I hear today that they're about to invite Nigel Farage into the party. The Conservative Party has gone quite significantly to the right during this week in Manchester. You know, a plan for drivers. Well, what about everybody else who uses public transport? You know, they're kind of coming up with policies that are kind of, if you like, pandering to certain opinions that they see on social media, but they're not actually putting forward kind of sensible long-term plans for the country as they claim to be doing. Right. So I honestly, I don't know. For me, I've never seen a situation, if I could just say this, Susanna, where a party comes to a city and leaves an axe hanging over that place all week while they're there, and just before they leave, they drop that axe on the city. This is politics of a kind I don't think we've seen before in this country, and to me, I don't like the look of it at all. OK. We'll put those points to Grant Shapps, the Defence Secretary, who used to be Transport Secretary, in a couple of minutes' time. Andy Burnham. Please do.
Thank you very much
indeed. Thank you, Andy.